Welcome back to True Crime Documentary YouTube channel. We've all heard the saying, "Life is what you make it." A simple phrase that's often repeated to remind us that our actions and choices shape the course of our futures. But what happens when life doesn't go as planned? When fate takes us on a path we never expected, and no matter how much we try to control it, change still happens. It's a reminder that life is unpredictable, and sometimes the very thing we hope to escape, our past or our circumstances, comes back to haunt us in ways we can't imagine. At the heart of this story is Jacqwelyn Villagomez, a young woman who seemed destined for greatness, but was tragically taken too soon. But this isn't just her story. It's the story of how life can throw us off course, how trauma can shape our actions, and how even in the darkest of times, a flicker of hope can guide us toward the light. This is the heartbreaking tale of Jacqwelyn, her struggles, and the man who would ultimately take her life. A story marked by love, pain, addiction, and a tragic, irreversible act. It's a reminder that even the most promising lives can be derailed by forces outside our control. Jacqwelyn Villagomez was born on May 8, 1995, in Modesto, California, to parents Jerry Bono and Edward Joseph. From the beginning, life wasn't easy for her. Jacqwelyn's mother, Jerry, was diagnosed with AIDS when Jacqwelyn was just a young child. Tragically, Jerry would pass away when Jacqwelyn was only around 5 years old. This was the first devastating loss in what would turn out to be a series of challenges Jacqwelyn would face throughout her life. After her mother's passing, Jacqwelyn and her brother were forced to move in with their grandmother. Unfortunately, this wasn't the sanctuary one might expect. It was a time of emotional turmoil for Jacqwelyn, as she didn't feel the love and acceptance she desperately needed. Instead of being welcomed with open arms, she often felt like a burden, someone who didn't quite belong. This sense of displacement and grief from the loss of her mother would leave emotional scars that would affect her well into adulthood. Although life with her grandmother was difficult, Jacqwelyn was eventually taken in by Jennifer Johnson, a woman who would change her life. Jennifer loved Jacqwelyn as if she were her own child, offering her the stability and affection she had been lacking. Under Jennifer's care, Jacqwelyn began to flourish. She started attending Brown Elementary School, and later transitioned to Airlock Junior High, where she began to find her footing again. Despite her early struggles, Jacqwelyn's academic abilities and athleticism shone through. She eventually moved on to Pittman High School, where she became a standout track star. Jacqwelyn wasn't just good at running, she was exceptional. She set multiple records that still stand today, a testament to her dedication and natural talent. But the story of Jacqwelyn wasn't just about running tracks. She was an all-around creative spirit, involved in music and the arts. Jacqwelyn played guitar, loved singing, and even had dreams of pursuing acting. Her energy was magnetic, and her vivacious spirit made her the center of attention wherever she went. People who knew her described her as someone who had a unique glow, someone who was always radiating positivity. When Jacqwelyn graduated from high school, she was known to her friends and family simply as Jackie. She was described as fun-loving, energetic, and deeply caring. At this point, it seemed like Jackie was on track for a bright future. She had so much potential, and the world was open to her. But despite all the support she had from her family and friends, there were demons lurking beneath the surface. Despite her bright personality and love for life, Jackie was still haunted by the emotional trauma of her past. The pain of losing her mother, the sense of not belonging in her grandmother's home, and the scars left by her turbulent childhood were never far from her mind. These deep-rooted struggles would eventually lead her to turn to substances in an attempt to numb the pain. By July 2008, Jackie was 19 years old, a free spirit with dreams of becoming a musician and actress. She still had a passion for the things she loved, but behind closed doors, she was battling addiction. Life in the fast lane wasn't always easy. Jackie often turned to alcohol and drugs to cope with the lingering grief and pain she had never fully dealt with. It was during this time that she found herself frequently visiting the beach, her place of solace. The rhythm of the waves crashing against the shore, the cool ocean breeze, and the serenity of the beach had a calming effect on her. It was there, at the beach, where she met John Needham, a decorated war veteran who had returned from Iraq with scars that went far beyond the physical. John Needham joined the U.S. Army in 2006, seeking a purpose and a way to serve his country. He was deployed to Baghdad, Iraq, and spent a year there, witnessing the horrors of war. The experiences John had in Iraq would change him forever. He saw things that no one should ever have to see, and it left him with deep emotional scars. Upon returning to the U.S., he was diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and struggled to adjust to civilian life. He also battled alcoholism, turning to the bottle as a means to cope with the trauma he'd endured during his time in the military. By July 2008, John was medically discharged from the Army after spending time in Iraq. His life, like Jacqwelyn's, seemed to be at a crossroads. He was struggling with the demons of his past, and his future felt uncertain. It was then that fate intervened, and John crossed paths with Jackie. Despite their struggles, the two found common ground. Both were dealing with their own issues, Jackie with addiction, and John with PTSD and alcoholism, but they were able to bond over their pain. They found comfort in each other's brokenness, and soon they became inseparable. John was also a guitar player, and he shared Jackie's love for music. They spent hours together, bonding over their mutual interests and emotional scars. Despite their connection, things were far from perfect for Jackie and John. They decided to move in together, but they didn't have a place of their own. Instead, they moved in with John's father, despite his objections. John's father, concerned about his son's condition, felt that moving in with Jackie was a bad idea. He believed that both John and Jackie needed to work through their issues before being in a relationship, let alone living together. But like many parents, he didn't want to stand in the way of his son's happiness. He reluctantly agreed to let them stay. However, life under John's father's roof was far from stable. John was still dealing with PTSD and was taking medications that didn't always mix well with alcohol. Jackie, too, was struggling with her addiction. The home was full of tension and unease, and it wasn't long before the cracks began to show. By September 1st, 2008, things had reached a breaking point. John's father had reached his limit and told Jackie she needed to leave. Although he wasn't kicking her out immediately, he made it clear that she had to get her things together and move out. On that day, Jackie and John were seen at a local liquor store, buying vodka, perhaps for one last drink together before Jackie's departure. That night, after drinking, Jackie and John got into a heated argument. It wasn't the first time, but this argument would be different. Jackie had agreed to move out, but her emotions were running high. She was ready to leave immediately, and she started packing her things. But as she was about to leave, she saw Renee, John's ex-girlfriend, entering the house. What happened next was a storm of emotions. Jackie confronted Renee, and the argument quickly turned physical. Renee later described Jackie as being out of control, saying that Jackie physically assaulted her. John intervened, attempting to restrain Jackie, but the altercation escalated. After the fight, Renee fled the scene and called 911. When the authorities arrived, they were shocked by what they found. John was sitting on the floor, crying, covered in blood, and lying motionless nearby was Jacqwelyn Villagomez. She was rushed to the hospital, but despite all efforts, Jacqwelyn would not survive the injuries sustained during the altercation. She was declared dead at the hospital. John was immediately taken into custody for questioning. In the hours that followed, John's interrogation would reveal a man who was emotionally and mentally broken. When asked why he did what he did, John was evasive. He admitted that he was struggling with PTSD, but never gave a straight answer as to why he had attacked Jackie. The details of the interrogation were chilling. John was asked about his reaction, to which he responded, "I don't know." The defense later claimed that his PTSD, combined with medication and alcohol, triggered a violent outburst that led to the fatal attack on Jacqwelyn. Despite his claims of emotional instability, John was facing murder charges. The case would go on to capture the public's attention, with many questioning whether John's PTSD and medication were enough of an excuse for his actions. Would he be convicted, or would his mental state be used as a defense? As the legal proceedings unfolded, John's story took another unexpected turn. In February 2010, while recovering from surgery at his mother's home in Arizona, John was found unresponsive. His brother attempted CPR, but it was too late. John Needham, the man who had taken Jacquelyn's life, was dead from an overdose of prescription medication. The cause of death was listed as undetermined, leaving many to wonder whether it was a suicide or a tragic accident. John, much like Jacqwelyn, was gone too soon, his life snuffed out by the very demons he had fought against. Jacqwelyn Villagomez's life, though short, was filled with love, dreams, and potential. Tragically, she was a victim of her circumstances, an addict struggling with unresolved trauma. Her story serves as a painful reminder of how the past can shape us, sometimes in ways we cannot control. John Needham's death left many questions unanswered. Was his PTSD and addiction truly to blame for Jacquelyn's tragic death? Or was there something more to the story that we may never fully understand? In the end, both Jacqwelyn and John were victims of their own demons. Their tragic story will always be a reminder of the complexities of mental health, addiction, and trauma. Rest in peace, Jacqwelyn. You were loved by those who knew you, and your legacy lives on in the hearts of those who were touched by your spirit. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Be sure to check out our other videos for more captivating stories. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.